He's got to deliver in that car in the RB where he's replaced Daniel.
That's Lando Norris.
substitute was...
Tyres.
You would think so, wouldn't you? We'll keep an eye on that.
And that's, unless, of course, he started on the used, and I'm being told he did start on the used tyres. So, no harm done so far, as long as he gets the time in. Here's George Russell on his latest lap, 25.3 through the first sector, same as Kevin Magnussen, same as Nico Hulkenberg. Alex Albon managed a 25.2, and he goes into fourth fastest as Russell now exits, a little unsteady, out of turn 11, and makes that long run down towards the braking zone of turn 12, where there's a little ripple in the tarmac that the cars have to ride over that slightly unsettles the car under braking. Right there. Nicely done, though, by George Russell through the middle sector of 37.6. Once again, matched by Kevin Magnussen in the Haas and Nico Hulkenberg in the other Haas.
Of course, they get one set less, which seems illogical, doesn't it? But on a sprint weekend where you've got 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races, you've got 1 less set of tyres, which is an attempt to sort of gradually wean teams off throwing brand new tyres at the car all the time.
Hulkenberg had a very good final sector and 0.3 of a second slower with his teammate Kevin Magnussen, 2nd and 8th for Haas. Russell, only 10th fastest so far for Mercedes. Here's Lewis Hamilton next to come round the final corner. And where does he end up? The line comes at you quite quickly, only 14th fastest. And I haven't got the information in front of me, Martin, but I dare say they are both on a used set of soft tyres as well.
Yeah, both Ferraris out on new tyres now, and the Mercs on a used tyre. We don't often see that actually at the beginning of qualifying, do we? But as I say, they've got less, a smaller tyre allocation on a sprint weekend.
I wonder as well, as a case of getting the drivers dialed in on the soft tyre. They've been out sprint racing on those medium tyres, so let's just use up a set of softs that we had in sprint qualifying and get their eyes in a little bit. Lawson goes 4th fastest. Into the 133s for him. Pierre Gasly is quickest overall, so new tyres against used tyres, I think a lot of the differences here. Tsunoda goes 5th fastest, Bottas only 14th fastest, and I haven't mentioned Esteban Ocon, who's right up there in 6th currently as well. And I think we're looking at the low 133s as the times that are going to be the competitive ones come the end of this Q1 session.
Well, we've had different cars out there racing, but it seems like they're now reconditioning the track. The surface will come to them. It's brand new surface in many parts of it, although the track temperature's actually gone up a little bit since we started this qualifying session. But quite clearly, the track is coming to the drivers.
It's a cloudy day, as in little bits of cloud in the sky, as you can see there. So if the sun does get a little bit blocked by a cloud for long enough, that might just cool things down at the right moment or the wrong moment if it doesn't for you, depending on when you're on the track.
Tsunoda goes last again. personal best. That's essential for them at the moment.
It certainly is. Verstappen with a 37.2 in the middle sector. George Russell will be coming to the end of that in a few moments' time, and we can try and let you know how he fares. He dropped a 10th to Verstappen in that middle part of the lap, how he fares up against the Red Bull. Leclerc, Gasly, Sainz the top three, and well, Russell looking good here for about a top 6 at the moment. Hamilton, though, half a second down on his teammate through that middle sector. Verstappen, as you would expect, goes to the top again with a 1:33.0. Where are the Mercedes going to end up then after the end of these oh-so-important laps? Russell to the line, and he goes third fastest, half a second down, but clear daylight between himself and the bottom 5. What about Hamilton? Really bad middle sector, as I said, half a second down, and Lewis Hamilton only 16th fastest and out of qualifying. That is it for Lewis Hamilton at a circuit where it comes to Grand Prix qualifying. He has always qualified inside the top 5. He hasn't made it out to the bottom 5 in the first part of qualifying. That is a huge upset.
Yeah, it was the middle sector that got him. He lost half a second, as you pointed out, but my goodness, what is going on there?
Oh, there's a bit of a hush around the track as the fans take that particular effort from Lewis Hamilton in. And it's only by 3/1000ths of a second he's slower than Kevin Magnussen, but you certainly would have expected more from Lewis Hamilton and from Mercedes there.
Yeah, and just to be clear, he hasn't got enough time to get round and start another lap. That is it.
And yes, he could, if there was fuel in the car, carry on for the next lap.
Hello and welcome. For the sprint qualifying, would certainly fancy his chances with the full upgrades on that Haas to at least equal that this afternoon. For the Grand Prix qualifying, it goes into the top 7, which pushes Colapinto into the bottom 5 and out. Lance Stroll next across the line. He has made it out of the bottom 5. Perez goes 9th fastest. Alex Albon drops in to that bottom 5, and he is out of qualifying too. Both Williams, both Saubers, and the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton have all ended early.
Both Williams, both Saubers is not a total shock. Lewis Hamilton, P19, is a total shock.
Well, he was disqualified from second here in the Grand Prix last season. That was a major disappointment for Lewis Hamilton, and that run of disappointments continues here today. When it comes to the US Grand Prix, 3 times he has been on pole.
Oh, that was a bit stressful.
Here at the Circuit of the Americas, once in Indianapolis, 4 US Grand Prix poles, but out in the first part of qualifying here today. And for the first time in 12 attempts, he has qualified outside the top 5 at the Circuit of the Americas.
Well, not a good lap. He was doing not a good lap.
They'll be pleased that they're ahead of Russell on new tyres, though. If they can stay in there with Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, and it looks like the two Ferraris should be right on the pace as well. What's going on here? This looks a long way out of the garage, doesn't it?
Well, it is a very wide pit
It
lane,
is.
so they've got plenty of room.
A very long car.
And snugly into the garage there for Charles Leclerc, who is down in 14th, but we haven't seen on a new set of tyres in this session so far. And this is where Lando Norris and Max Verstappen are gaining or losing time to each other. Verstappen, look, we were on board with Verstappen through that first sector, and it just looked absolutely magnificent in terms of the ride that he was getting. Meanwhile, Lando Norris...
That's what Zach was talking about, it being bumpy. I'm sure it looks bumpier than it did, unless they've lowered the cars a little bit, made them a bit stiffer, but in an attempt to make them go faster. But we're seeing a lot more movement than I recall yesterday.
Very much so. I mean, speeds are obviously greater, engines turned up, fuel drained out a little bit, but you're right.
You could see Lando bouncing in the car. There's no give in your seat, of course. You are sitting on the floor of the car. But Lando's head was bouncing up and down there.
So just over 6 minutes to go then in this session. Everyone's in the garage apart from this man, Oscar Piastri, and George Russell. Piastri's just coming into the pits now, comes past our commentary box. I'm sure we'll have heard the Aussie fans on the bank and the New Zealand fans with them to come and cheer them on. The Antipodean Brigade are here. 16 nationalities represented on the grid, tied for the most in any Formula One race in the history of the World Championship.
But with only 20 cars, that's the remarkable aspect of that. Ted's got news on Max Verstappen.
He's gone out, Martin, on track, all on his lonesome. Lonesome, that's a sort of Western thing, isn't it, Crofty? I'm on my lonesome. Lonesome Dove, there you go, that was a Western-based book.
just starts tightening up now. And we're going to go over a blind crest here. And there's a big track limit issue there, but he gave that a massive margin, having taken some pain earlier on in qualifying. Slightly uphill into the braking zone, get off the brake pedal, pick up the throttle, squeeze it, and go. As soon as you feel, as Verstappen does, amid a 1 minute 32, a quarter of a second faster than Norris, we're doing okay. In the first sector is Charles Leclerc, nothing better than that at the moment, but okay should be enough to get him where he needs to be for the top 10 shootout. And this is the bit that gets technical. You link these corners up, you've got to treat them really as one long section. Go in high, turn the car hard, strain it up, then you get some traction. Now just let it go. It's sort of miss the final apexes, and then get the car just nicely load up through turn 19. Huge margin for on the outside of the corner there for Leclerc. Could carry more speed than that, but he knows he's got to get this lap on the board, and he does so.
Third fastest for Charles Leclerc should be okay. Sergio Perez was going faster than the Ferrari through the first two sectors. Yuki Tsunoda's had a tow from Liam Lawson once again down the back straight. Probably helped out Lance Stroll as well. It was the car right behind him. Perez goes fourth fastest, just behind Charles Leclerc by a few 100ths of a second. Gasly still with pace in the Alpine as we ride on board now with the Frenchman Carlos Sainz looking handy through the first sector and matched that first sector time of Pierre Gasly's. Hulkenberg's lost 0.6 of a second to those around him in the first part of the lap. Tsunoda slots in ninth fastest. Will that be good enough, I wonder? You've got on a lap here Lance Stroll, who'll be going for a lap, I should say, in a moment, as Gasly crosses the line now, stays in 7th place. So that does put Yuki Tsunoda under a little bit of a pressure, I think, there. Carlos Sainz currently in 8th. Next car to round the final corner, does so, and moves up to second fastest. 2.5 tenths off Max Verstappen as he Verstappen's nearest challenger for pole position this afternoon. Esteban Ocon will be next to cross the line. It's not been Esteban Ocon's greatest track in the past, but he was 8th on the grid last year. He has not made it into the top 10 this year, only by 5/100ths of a second. He is out of qualifying. Same, I think, is going to be said for Kevin Magnussen, who's on a lap 2. Hulkenberg next across the line, stays 10th fastest as he hits the checkered flag. Who's improving behind these? 25.3 for the first sector for Lance Stroll. It's his fastest first sector time so far. Fernando Alonso now going through turn 13, and he's what, 2/1000ths of a second through the first two sectors, away from making the top 10.
And Magnussen's kicked Hulkenberg out.
He has.
Goes P9, Hulkenberg down to 11th.
Produced a really good final sector. Kevin Magnussen, who's been out-qualified by Hulkenberg in their last 8 consecutive qualifying sessions as teammates. Alonso, around the final couple of corners he comes, trying to desperately get into that top 10 using all his experience. As he crosses the line, he makes it. Tsunoda is out, Alonso is through, and a decent lap in the end from Fernando Alonso by 5/100ths of a second. He beats Kevin Magnussen at the 10th. Can Magnussen stay 10th? Here's Lance Stroll, crosses the line, stays 14th. He was the last one going for a lap, and sadly, he didn't leave his best effort until last, and misses out there. Liam Lawson, we expected. Stroll misses out. Ocon, Hulkenberg, I think, is going to be very disappointed, and Tsunoda had the benefit of the toe, but it didn't quite work for him.
Not quite, did it? Tsunoda misses out by 300.
direction of what we would have done yesterday, and the car was a nightmare today in quali. So I think I should probably start in the pit lane because they got to. Otherwise, I won't be going anywhere from where I am.
Just tell us what you were dealing with during that session and what the feel was like and what you were having to manage and what the challenge was.
It's just a very inconsistent balance and no grip.
All right, good luck tomorrow.
I think if the balance is that bad, Martin, the pit lane start might be a no-brainer for Lewis Hamilton tomorrow.
Yeah, and throw a bundle of new. You might as well introduce a fresh engine, a power unit, and all the control, electronics, batteries, what have you, into it as well, and try for a different setup. He might as well, because he's starting, as you point out, 18th anyway when Lawson's had his penalty, and see if they can. That is one of the downsides of a sprint weekend, isn't it? As if a team or a driver missed the moment at the knife edge of a setup and they're not there, and that's new news that Lewis actually had a failure of some sort in the sprint race. It's such a whirlwind of an event thereafter. You can't really put it right.
Let's head down to the Sky Pad. Anthony Davidson.
Yeah, thanks, Crofty. I'm just going to get into what happened to Hulkenberg later on in his lap. We saw what happened in turn 1, but look at this. This is turn 12, where he's hunting for the grip and loses a bit of traction on the exit, and then into 13, on top of all what's happened, he gets another oversteer moment. So I'm not surprised he was even laughing at how bad the performance was during that lap. It happens to the best of them. Nico, you've been brilliant all the way through in qualifying, so we'll let you off for that one. Back to you, Crofty.
Good timing. Thanks ever so much, Anthony. As the tyre blankets come off George Russell's Mercedes, and it looks like he's going out on a set of the used soft tyres. We have one Mercedes then in this final top 10 here. We have one Haas of Kevin Magnussen. We have one Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso, one Alpine of Pierre Gasly, two McLarens of Piastri and Norris, two Ferraris of Leclerc and Sainz, and two Red Bulls of Perez and Verstappen. And in 3, 2, 1, the green light is on, and Max Verstappen will come out thinking, it's been a long time since I've been on a Grand Prix pole, maybe this is my time.
He's the man to beat, isn't he? This looks like it's Verstappen for pole at the moment, unless somebody can pull a magic lap out of the bag. And then a big scrap between Ferrari, McLaren and George Russell for best of the rest.
Only one pole in the last 10 races for Max Verstappen. And these sprints at Austria until he took a pole for the sprint here last night as well. And can he make it 2 out of 2? Ted, down to you.
Seeing lots of the new, fresh, red striped soft tyres that Ferrari have saved, McLaren have saved, that Red Bull have saved. Actually, I've just seen an Alpine pass me on scrub tyres, but otherwise, yeah, the Red Bull you can see just going down the pit lane now of the reigning world champion Max Verstappen on fresh, soft tyres for this one. I've just got some more info from Mercedes on this suspension problem Hamilton was talking about there. Apparently, it was a bearing problem, guys, in the front suspension. All the components were changed between the sprint race and the start of this qualifying session, say Mercedes. No suggestion of any kind of recurrence of that bearing problem, but obviously the consequence was that Lewis just wasn't happy with that car.
He did say on the formation lap on the sprint, didn't he, Lewis? I'm feeling a clicking. I can hear a clicking.
Yeah.
Something feels not right.
I think he thought it was coming from the brakes, if I recall.
That's right.
But yeah, he felt that. So, brand spanking new tyres then on the reigning world champion, the championship leader, and a man who seems entirely much more happy with Formula One life after the break we've just had.
Here's a man, Max Verstappen, who's used to making Q3. He's done it at every race so far in 2024, as has Oscar Piastri. There is one driver in the top 10 in Q3 for the first time this season, and that's Kevin Magnussen.
And Lando, trust the car, don't overload combined, the lap time will come.
Combined is basically turning and braking at the same time. Don't ask too much. Just let the car roll a little bit, is what he's been told. So don't overdrive it, basically.
Magnussen making then his first Q3 appearance here for 10 years, his first of the season. He'll go for a lap in a moment or two.
But here goes Lando Norris. Take us through this one, Martin, as he makes that 40-metre climb to turn 1.
Yeah, must be wonderful, mustn't be driving up there, but a mix and match of cambers, and this car has looked horrible on the bumps through this next stage, relatively speaking, it must be said. We can't see it from this height, of course. It's sparking on the ground. It looked like it just stepped out a little bit on him from the back end, and he's keeping good forward speed, well within track limits there, and he's under 25 for the first sector, which is good. Brake into the hill, get off the brakes, pick up the throttle, do not hit the rev limiter, get your shifts absolutely spot on, and now get ready for a critical braking point into turn 12. There's your references on the right-hand side. Boom, he braked about 95 meters, didn't he? That's very, very late at that speed. Again, neat and tidy, a decent middle sector. This lap's coming together better. The car still looking very stiff in the suspension, almost lifting a wheel, front wheel in places. But critically, he's keeping it going forward, and he's not having to correct a load of slides.
Comparing it to his teammate Oscar Piastri, he's 4/10 up through the first 2 sectors. That looked a little bit wild through turn 19. Russell would have won 32.9 is the target to beat. Norris crosses the line and goes on to provisional pole with a 1:32.3, which is good. But Max Verstappen's already a 10th up through the first sector on him. Oscar Piastri makes it a McLaren front row. If it stays that way, that's their 50th in Formula One, but I don't think it will. 0.6 of a second between the 2 McLarens, and Carlos Sainz slots in between them.
And that confirms what I'm thinking. Norris will be thoroughly satisfied with that lap.
He certainly will. Just, they said, take it easy. You know, the lap time will come. Trust the car. And Max Verstappen through the middle sector, only 0.02 of a second up on Lando Norris. So it's very close at the moment between the championship leader and the man in second place. And it's the man in second place who set the first target time. Gasly, 6th fastest, ahead of Magnussen. We've not seen Alonso on the track as yet. Perez is going, here's Verstappen.
Seemed he had to take another gear down in turn 19, and he hasn't done it. He's afraid, once again, confirming what a cracking lap that was that we watched from Lando Norris. But I'm sure Max had to just steal another downshift in T19.
And Perez goes only 8th fastest when he crosses the line. This season is just wonderful, isn't it? It swings around, and just when you think you've got a handle on who is the dominant car,
I don't know what we're missing compared to yesterday.
then you get little upsets along the way, and Lando Norris at the moment 3/100ths of a second ahead of Max Verstappen. Looked so comfortable for him, and then Norris pulls a lap out of the bag, and I said it looked a little bit wild through turn 19.
Yeah, he was well within the blue line there, wasn't he? I mean, he was wringing his neck there, absolutely wringing its neck, and then gave it a bit of a left-hander to left hand down to make sure he kept a wheel in play, which he did. And he should be absolutely fine there. Perez lost that lap time as well.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have a time on the board. That 33.260 from Perez. Critically, he's lost that. But yeah, that's a cracker. That will have caught Max Verstappen's attention.
It certainly has. And 3/10 up on Carlos Sainz Ferrari was something to do as the cars get pushed back into the garage again. Perez losing that time for exceeding track limits. He was on a set of used tyres, which is why he was down in 8th place. And everyone's coming into the garages to swap their tyres, all except Fernando Alonso, who's just gone out and I think wants the track to himself to set a time on the one set of new tyres he's got for this final part of qualifying.
I like it. Drivers who can carry the speed and stay within the track, on the racetrack, get rewarded.
Yeah.
Those that can't get penalised. That's how it should be. You should reward the drivers that can carry the speed and can stay on the racetrack.
So the last time he raced in the US was in Miami. And for a Grand Prix, Lando Norris won it, and he's on provisional pole for the return here. Here comes Fernando Alonso then. And he has, Martin, got the track to himself. Forget Lonesome Dove, the Larry McMurtry book. that Ted Kravitz was referencing. We'll give it some Bruce Springsteen. Lonesome day for Fernando Alonso. It's like a test day for him. The man who's raced over 100,000 kilometres in Formula One. The most experienced driver of all time, and already 3/10 down through the first sector, and an Aston Martin full of upgrades this weekend, but still sadly lacking the downforce he wants.
I couldn't tell you why it was 3/10 down. It looks superb through there. It's hitting the ground a lot, but they all do that. And look at his head bouncing against the headrest. You can't lean into the corners as you naturally want to when you go into a high G corner, because your head can't move, basically. But they're used to that. I don't know, the track looks bumpier today than yesterday, but they must have lowered and stiffened the cars a little bit. But what's he doing then? 25.3, then a 37.3, so that puts him 1.2 off Norris's lap, doesn't it, at that point? And that is a long way, but I mean, Fernando's giving it everything.
The man still racing into what is 44th year. Fernando Alonso. Mark Webber has been retired a few years, been on pole more recently than this guy, but he's still going out there to try and get something out of this sport that he loves so much. It's 8th on the grid, and you think, oh, only 8th for Fernando Alonso, but he's had grid penalties here for the last 3 years, and I dare say, if he stays 8th, he might just be pretty happy with that. Meanwhile, Sergio Perez, track limits at turn 9.
Over the blind crest, here it is. He hit the curb on the way in. He hit the curb on the left, and it bounced him at Civi. It bounced him wide, unfortunately. Just got a bit too greedy on that left-hand curb.
Red Bull fans watching on and looking at the replay of Sergio Perez, whilst his teammate Max Verstappen is out on track. Celebrated, of course, his 27th birthday on September the 30th, in between the last two races, last race I should say in this. He's won the last 3 US Grand Prix. He's won the last 3 Mexico City Grand Prix, where we go next week, of course. He's going to the tracks that he absolutely loves, but he won't want to be starting on the front row. He will want to be on pole for this tomorrow, and is that Lando Norris coming out of the garage? Oh no, it's the Alpine. So I see the rear wing now of Pierre Gasly.
Is a textbook case of unsafe release.
Yeah. Now, is that a fine, or is that a grid penalty if it is an unsafe release?
It's only the team that get a fine for that, isn't it?
It is, but, you know, couldn't Gasly have seen him? I don't know. You sat in these cars?
I sat in one 10 days ago. You can see pretty much nothing out of them, basically, but especially beside you or behind you. And he gave it a big swerve when he did realise there was something there. Presumably got a radio call. So I said it would take a spectacular lap to beat Max Verstappen this evening. Have we already seen that from Lando Norris? Can he go faster still? Yeah. Or does Verstappen, or indeed anybody else, have an answer to a 1:32.330?
I'm thinking about it. The important thing with that Gasly unsafe release, he didn't hit Max Verstappen, and he could easily have hit Max Verstappen because he was coming out in a fairly attacking style. So Max Verstappen survives that one, and he lives to fight another lap. Here he goes then, Martin. Can he beat Lando Norris?
Well, he'll know where, if he's left any time on the table anywhere. He's certainly left a margin up against track limits, so he's got that available to him, and we'll see if he uses it. He's carrying superb speed through there, isn't he? As this is the section, as I said, that gets tighter and tighter. Nice, sweet. As a 24.8 first sector, so he knows he's got to wring its neck a little bit up against track limits. He got away just fine with turn 9. Turn 12 is another one at the end of this next straight. All looking good, and Norris is 2/10 down in the first sector, has not had even a personal best there. The door is open for Verstappen here and pole position.
Who will want to walk in, I'm sure. There's a yellow flag in the final sector. It's George Russell. He's gone off into the barriers. Max Verstappen is going to get to that scene very, very soon, and he's going to have to slow down, and that will cost Max Verstappen a chance at pole position. It's cost George Russell, who's gone off into the barriers. He seems to be okay, and that's the main thing here, but the medical car has been deployed. George says he's okay. That's brilliant. He's getting out of the car. That's even better. But that should end this qualifying session.
That's double waved yellows. Nobody will get a time.
And puts Lando Norris on pole then for the US Grand Prix. And for Norris, it's a 4th pole in the last 5 Grand Prix. And it's exactly where he wanted to be.
That's key. And the reason the medical car is deployed, because it's registered beyond, I think, 25G impact, so it automatically gets deployed there, even though George looks like he's just fine. He had a big snap of oversteer going into that penultimate turn 19 and went straight to the scene of the accident by the looks of it.
Just as Max Verstappen was raring it up, just as the Bulls were about to shout hook 'em horns here in Texas, George Russell goes off into the barriers, brings qualifying to a premature end, and Lando Norris on provisional pole is confirmed as the pole sitter for the US Grand Prix.
Well earned. That was a cracking lap, wasn't it? Good, great advice from his engineer, and he delivered it. He delivered a really neat and tidy lap, pushed his luck in the T19, and knew he had to really, he knew he was on a great lap, finished it off there a treat, and then circumstances have protected that.
Now Max Verstappen will say, hey, I'm second on the grid, I'm on the front row, and don't you remember that second on the grid has led lap 1 in 5 of the last 6 US Grand Prix? Still got a chance in this race tomorrow, but what a front row that is. Let's have a look at what happened to George Russell approaching turn 19. You said, what, a snap of oversteer, Martin? That's what it looked like.
Yeah, he's turned in from, it's not that big a shunt really, to be honest.
You're right.
Yeah.
The car is safe.
They're safe with the battery, he means. It's not going to polish out that shunt, but the battery's safe, so you can get out, you don't have to jump clear of it. I think he was quite high up. Anthony will no doubt look at it with his expert eye on the sky pad, but I think he was a little bit high on the curb on the way in and just loosened the back of the car off.
125 miles an hour as he approached that turn. Not a big shunt.
No, but
I'd have felt it.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong, but in Formula One terms, but he managed to scrub some speed off. I mean, he'll have felt it, but it's not going to hurt him as long as he takes his hands off the steering wheel.
Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc line up 3rd and 4th on the grid for Ferrari. Oscar Piastri and George Russell 5th and 6th, assuming there's no chassis damage to George Russell's Mercedes. 7th and 8th for Pierre Gasly and Fernando Alonso, and 9th and 10th for Magnussen and Perez, for whom that's deleted lap did prove costly in the end. And Lando Norris, McLaren's first pole sitter in the US since Lewis Hamilton at Indianapolis in 2007. Lewis Hamilton, who starts this race down in P18, if you weren't with us at the start, going out in Q1, his car just not competitive, and they confirming that they've had a few problems with parts on that car.
Mixed day for the Brits, wasn't it? Norris on pole, Russell in the hedge, and Hamilton at the back.
With your second place starter for tomorrow's US Grand Prix, Max Verstappen. Max, it all came down to that first run. A little mistake, it looked like, in turn 19. Do you think that's maybe where the difference was?
Yeah, on the first lap in Q3, lost quite a bit of time there. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. But then, yeah, I knew that we had another run, but unfortunately, I couldn't finish the lap. Otherwise, I think we had a really good shot. But that's how it goes. We're still on the front row. At least the potential was there, you know, to be first. So that's very good.
You've got to be confident still going into the Grand Prix tomorrow after a very good performance today in the today in qualifying. What did you guys learn in that sprint race that you can apply to be even stronger tomorrow?
Yeah, it seemed that we were competitive, so we made some minor changes on the car, which felt again nice, and I hope that will be also positive for tomorrow.
All right, well, best of luck. Congratulations. Front row start for Max Verstappen. Sprint race winner earlier today. Carlos Sainz will line up P3 for Ferrari. Big wave to the crowd, Carlos. A very competitive weekend so far for Ferrari. Competitive session for you as well. You said after the sprint race, if you could just start a little bit higher than you did in the sprint, you had a good shot at the win. P3 is a little bit higher. How are you feeling for tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, that was the target, to do a step in qualifying compared to yesterday. Yesterday we were P5, today we are P3, so we've done a good step in the right direction. A bit gutted for that last lap because I was 3 tenths up on my lap, the 32.6, going into turn 16 with only 2 corners left. But yeah, easy to say now. Anyway, I think we've done some good progress and we should be in the fight tomorrow if we get a clean start, and then with the 2 guys in front, it should be a fun one.
With the track temperature changing so much throughout the qualifying, did you have to adjust the way you prepare the tires on your prep laps, or was it pretty standard across the entire session?
Yeah, I always kept an eye on it because it's something where we've struggled recently in our team to put the tires in the right window for qualifying. We seem to be always quick in the race, but on qualifying we have some ups and downs, and it was my main point of focus during the whole quali. And yeah, it seems like we got it right, especially that last lap before the yellow flag. It seemed like we got them in the right spot because we suddenly found a lot of lap time going into the first 2 sectors.
Well, you had a lot of practice today learning how to pass in the sprint race, so best of luck tomorrow. Only a few positions to go.
We'll try and keep it up. Thank you.
And now your pole sitter for the U.S. Grand Prix, Lando Norris. What a run. It was 3 poles in the last 4 races coming in here. Make it 4 out of the last 5. Just talk us through the lap in that first run that got it done.
No, it's been, it was a beautiful lap. I was not going to go much quicker than what I did. You know, when you just do a lap, well, maybe, you know, but when you just do a lap and you think, damn, it's going to be tough to beat that. But I put everything out on the line, and it's what we needed to do. We've been on the back foot pretty much the whole weekend. We've not had the pace of the Ferraris or the Red Bulls. So I had to do something, and today I did that. So yeah, a cool lap and a nice way to start the race tomorrow.
Now, take us through the mindset of a driver coming out of a sprint race and only having just a few hours to kind of regroup, reset, and get back into that qualifying mindset. Is that a big challenge for you guys?
It is, around here it is, because it's a lot faster. And I mean, this is one of the tracks where inside you're like, damn, this is fast. And it's exciting. And it just gives you a good feeling, you know. It's bumpy and it's fast, especially Sector 1. So it puts a smile on your face. And definitely ending quickest puts a bigger smile on your face too. So a tough day, a tough weekend for us. But we changed quite a bit. I think we reviewed everything we could. And we made the improvements we needed to make. So maybe we weren't the quickest car out there today. You know, Carlos said he was going to go quicker. Max was going to go quicker. So I'm lucky, and I'll take it.
Yeah, it was all about getting it done when you had the opportunity today. But now let's switch focus to tomorrow. In the sprint race, great start to get up into P2, but it seemed like you guys were battling a little bit more tire degradation than Max and the Ferraris. What kind of changes have you made, and are you confident you've addressed that issue for tomorrow?
Sure. It's tough. I mean, I'll do my homework. We already made some changes to hopefully improve that direction, but time will tell. So we'll work hard. We've done a good job so far. Box number 1 ticked, but tomorrow's going to be a tough race.
6 different pole sitter in the last 6 races here at Circuit of the Americas.
Cheers,
Your
man.
pole sitter tomorrow,
Thank you.
Lando Norris.